Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 70 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. I really enjoyed this one. It was a fun episode, and I'm really excited to talk about it, some of the good things that happened inside of this episode. So, let's begin. We start in Bastarus. The Bell's Hells notice that Bastarus has changed a little bit. There are crawlers on guard, and will look to be Vasselheim soldiers moving about. Orm sees behind the city walls 3 sky ships seem to be gathering supplies. They also seem to be from Vasselheim. They are maybe 60 feet off the ground, docked outside the city. One suddenly explodes and slams into one of the other ships, and the bells begin to hear bells ringing. Guards and citizens begin to run towards it. FCG tries to get a feel from other people around. They seem curious but not worried the ship wasn't totally destroyed. The party see people are setting up shop on the streets to make a quick dollar from the visiting powers, i.e. Vasselheim. Orm asks an elderly woman how long the ships have been there. She tells them about a day and a half, and there's been more of them that have come and gone. She says some other ships have also exploded or been attacked, but such is life in Bastarus. FCG is upset by this notion that Bastarus is like this, but has to quickly move on. The party think they should move to Joe's now, be very quick about it. Laudna says they should definitely go as they have Keyleth with them and don't want to waste her time. Chetty wants to check out what just happened. Imogen can go with them and they can turn invisible. But Keyleth turns into a bird and goes and takes a look. She comes back and basically explains that the ship was attacked but not destroyed, and wonders if she knows anyone involved with the ships over there. The party start thinking about splitting up. Keyleth asks if they should reconvene back at this tree, sometime around noon. Lana doesn't want Keyleth to go anywhere alone, as they just helped fix her up, but Keyleth can take care of herself, and she wants to deal with some things alone. The party asks Dancer how long fixing the harness will take. She says a few days. The party think it's better to leave to the Shattered Teeth and come back for the harness later. They agree to meet up back here at the tree at noon. Keyleth goes off on her own, and she's very excited about it as it's been a while. Laudna looks at the scry ball and sees nothing. The party choose to go to Joe's together before splitting up. They make their way to the familiar neighborhood that Joe's shop is in. They reach his place and it's dark and closed. They knock, no answer. Chetney goes to open it but checks for traps first. 19, there doesn't seem to be any traps on this side of the door. Fern, Ashen, and Orem go look for a back entrance to the place. Chetney lockpicks the lock with a 22. He is successful in opening the lock. Imogen uses Mage Hand to open the door. The door swings open. Lana then throws her voice and makes noise. And inside they hear something smash and someone say shit. The voice is not Joe's. Imogen feels 9 mines inside here. As she's concentrating on it, a glass ball rolls out from inside. Dex saves for Chetney, Laudna, and Imogen. They all take 7 lightning damage as they all save. Chetney yells that they are friends. Around the back, Fern, Ashen, and Orem see a outdoor junkyard and seems to be some sort of workspace with a fence surrounding it. Laudna looks for an entrance on the roof, and with a natural 20, there's no hatch or anything, but there is a grate where things like smoke would be allowed to leave the shop. Laudna spider climbs her way up. Around the back, Ashen uses their hammer to make a platform so they can get over the fence. Imogen flies up to the roof with Laudna. Laudna looks through the grate and sees Joe's workshop and sees several men inside. Some of them waiting at the door and some of them are hiding further back with crossbows. And 2 figures are under guard. One is a hooded figure and one is Joe. There's another figure on guard nearby them. Laudna insists to try to figure out what's going on. Insight checks to see what's going on. With a 16, she can see that Joe is very fearful and doesn't want to be there. Orem, using the hammer, stealthily looks over the fence. Laudna warns Ashen out back how many figures there are, and 2 of them seem to be going toward the back. Orem sees the back door open a bit and then closes it again. Laudna informs Chetney out front. At this point, Mac gets a battle map out. It looks sick, by the way. FCG and Chetney are out front. Laudna and Imogen are on the roof. Orem, Ashen, and Fern are at the back. FCG asks if they're going to attack. Lana says she doesn't want Joe to get hurt. Lana and Imogen make a plan to drop in and drive them out of the house. Chetney turns invisible. Lana warns Ashton that they're going in soon. Imogen tells FCG that they're going to drive them towards FCG and Chetney. As they're planning, one of the people inside sees Lana through the grate and shoots her, and she takes 32 damage. It's time to roll initiative. The initiative rolls are Lana with 22, Fern with 19, Chetney with 17, FCG with 16, Ashton with 14, Orem with 13, Imogen with 5, and Dancer with a natural 1. Lana is up first. She enters her form of dread after being shot, and she sends a fireball down into the shop. This destroys a bit of the workshop, lighting some of the black powder and wrecking a ton of the furniture. Some of the people in the radius fail, taking 25 damage, and some succeed, taking 12. It seems that a half-giant inside succeeded. She then moves away from the grate as to not get shot again when it's not her turn. One of the people inside jumps outside the window and sees FCG and Dancer, but they choose the threat is up top. They run up to the roof with no issue as if they're a monk, and they have no weapons on them, so they're definitely a monk. As they climb, Chetney tries to see if they have Ruby Vanguard on them. They aren't wearing anything red like the Ruby Vanguard, but they're wearing dark clothes and have a golden chain with a bird skull medallion. They run up to Lana and they miss their first punch, and is about to hit their second punch, but Lana shields. They can see that they are Paragon's Call members. Fern is up. She jumps to the backyard with an acrobatics check of 12. She takes 3 damage as she lands. She then summons Mister. She sees a figure holding hiding up against the wall holding a crossbow. She gets Mister to throw a flaming seed at them and hits for 9 damage. The hooded figure then turns to see her. Another figure lands behind Fern and goes to stab her. It misses the first hit, but lands the second and third. Fern takes 23 damage and 9 damage on the second one. Chetney is up. He sells his way inside the building. He sees people on guard. Chetney uses his blood curse on one of the ones that Laudna frightened earlier with her fireball spell, because that's the thing Laudna can do. She can frighten people. Chetney pulls out his new sword and hears him say this is the first of many battles they will have. Chetney swings, natural 1. Good start with this new sword. He then hits the second one for 20 damage. Very good start for the new sword. 20 damage is really good. The guy he hits then fails a charisma save, and he seemingly joins Chetney. The half-giant in the room recognizes Chetney as he is no longer invisible. It is General Rotanish. It's been a long time since we've seen him. Holy shit. He rages and rushes Chetney with his battle axe. He hits Chetney twice, dealing 15 damage on the first and 18 on the second. FCG is up. FCG tells Dancer to hide and to use their pussy for protection if they have to. Can't believe I'm still talking about that robot. FCG goes to the window and sees Chetney getting hit by General Rotanish. FCG casts Banishment on him. Rotanish rolls a natural 1. Or rolls a 2, but has minuses apparently. And poofs out of existence. FCG then moves inside. One of the Paragon's Call members are up. He casts Heat Metal on Chetney on the breastplate. Chetney takes 11 fire damage from this. Ashton is up. They rage. They choose to go to the roof to deal with the monk. Fern's probably fine. Orem will go help. Athletics check 16. They run up to the roof and swing at the monk. They reckless attack and hit with a 26, dealing 20 damage to the monk on the roof. The monk then needs to make a strength save. They make it with a natural 20. But Ashton pushes them anyway using one of their other abilities. Ashton then swings again with a wormhole opening up behind the monk and deals 23 more damage. Orem is up. He jumps down to a crawler and revs the engine, but unfortunately it's a scrapyard, so it starts up, but it doesn't move anywhere. He then action surges and runs up to Fern and then baits and switches with her, giving her 5 more AC. Orem then swings for the Paragon's Call member and misses both attacks. Joe starts to scoot around, but is stopped by the caster in the shop. Another Paragon's Call member swings for Chetney and misses the first hit, but crits the second. They deal 17 damage to Chetney, but FCG takes half of that, so instead it only deals 8. The Charmed Paragon's Call tries to get the others to stop swinging at Chetney because they're friends, but doesn't roll terribly well. The one on the outside that Mister hits drops their crossbow and runs up to Fern and swings for her, hitting for the first attack and dealing 6 damage. Imogen is up. She tries to push the monk 5 feet back with telekinesis. Athletics check, the monk fails and falls off the roof and out of sight. They hear a loud impact once he's out of sight. She enters the shop and casts Lightning Bolt at 4th level. The 2 targets succeed the save. They both take half damage, so 10 damage total each. Dancer is up. She runs up and enters the shop. FCG is not happy about this. She looks at Chetney and sees that he's very fucked up. Pussy the Second lands on Chetney's shoulder, and Dancer casts Cure Wounds through Pussy. God damn it. Chetney then thanks PS2, and that is how I'm going to refer to this robot for the rest of time. PS2 is awesome. Dancer then looks around and walks back out. This is not their fight that they necessarily want to be involved in. Lana is up. She looks through the grate and fires Eldritch Blast towards 2 of the Paragon Calls members near Chetney. She hits 1 and deals 7 damage. She quickens spells to send 2 more again, this time hitting both, dealing 12 and 9. These members are starting to look fucked up. This gets rid of Chetney's charm on the one guard, however. Lana then crawls away from the grate yet again. The monk is up. They stand up and run toward the window and do a flurry of blows on FCG through the window. They miss the first attack, but hit the second, dealing 10 damage. FCG needs to make a strength saving throw. They roll an 11 and are pushed 10 feet back from the window. The monk then enters the room. FCG on a con save for banishment saves, thank God. The monk tries to hit again but misses. Fern is up. She casts Charm Person on the sword-wielding Paragon member that missed her through a flaming seed at earlier. They fail. She then grabs their crossbow and goes to the back door of the building. Mister then shoots a flaming seed at the one attacking Orem but misses. Fern calls Mister over, and the one swings at Mister for leaving their range. The attack hits, dealing 7 damage to Mister. Poor Mister. The one fighting Orem is up. He pushes Orem away from them and then throws 2 daggers at him. Both of them missing Orem and hitting the crawler behind him. The crawler starts to seemingly near explode from this. It seems to start to rev up a bit. They then run away from Orem. Chetney is up. He transforms into a werewolf. He swings for the enemy that is frightened and deals 26 damage, killing him. The first death of this fight. He then moves up and swings for the monk, but takes a swing from one of the other Paragon's Calls member and takes 4 damage himself. Chetney then hits the monk with 23 and deals a ton of damage, 27. The monk saves the charisma save, however. Chetney flanks with FCG. FCG is up. They heal Chetney for 13 points. They then try to sawblade the monk and hits him, dealing 14 damage through the temporary hit points he gained last round and doing a seemingly Divine Smite-esque move. The caster is up. Chetney takes 11 more fire damage from the heat metal. They then cast Erupting Earth. Rock pillars blast upward from the ground. Imogen, FCG, and Chetney need to make dex saves. FCG saves and takes 14 damage and is able to keep concentration. Imogen and Chetney also save and take the same damage. The monk is, however, dead because they were also in the radius of the erupting earth. Ashton is up. Ashton slides off the roof and rolls a 21 for the landing. He lands near Fern and the rogue, who seems to be stabbing at her. They swing and crit, dealing 32 damage, and then swing again. They crit again, dealing 28 more damage. This rogue, Paragon's Call member, went from looking perfectly fine to nearly dead in one turn. Orem is up. He runs to a different crawler and tries to get it running. And with an investigation check of 3, he finds one that has a missing dashboard in it, so no control panel or anything like that. Orem uses Grasping Vine on the guy near him and throws him toward one of the crawlers. Orem then air slashes the crawler, natural ones, but then rerolls for a natural 20, dealing 18 damage, and then the second hit deals 14 damage. The arcane core of the crawler falls out and blows up, dealing 38 damage to the Paragon's Call member and the area around him. The Paragon's Call member breaks free of the vines, and then hears a whining noise from the other core and the other crawler, and it blows up, dealing 31 damage, and he is blown to pieces. For the most part, Orm is able to block all the bloody bits. It is now time for one of the other Paragon's Call members. He runs for Imogen and swings, and hits both attacks for 10 and 5. He then runs away and hides behind a door. Imogen is up. She casts telekinesis on a table and smashes it on that same Paragon's Call member. He fails and takes 22 damage. Imogen then goes and hides behind a bar. Dancer is up. She walks to the window, and using PS2, they fly up to a Paragon's Call member and cast Shocking Grasp, but they miss. Laudna is up. She climbs back up to the roof and Eldritch blasts the caster through the grates. She crits on and hits the other one, dealing 24 damage on the first and 5 damage on the second. She then quicken spells and casts them again, hitting both again for 7 and 6 damage respectively. The caster never loses concentration from all 4 of these. Fern is up. She casts Armor of Agathis and then kicks open the door. She's able from here. As she moves, a Paragon's Call member swings at her, but misses. She sees Imogen, FCG, and Chetney inside the shop, and she moves to find Joe. Mister then sends a Flaming Seed toward the enemy near Ashen, hitting for 12 damage, and Mister kills this fucker with his shit. That's insane. Chetney is up. He runs for the enemy that Imogen just hit. He swings twice. He hits the first, dealing 29 damage, killing him. He then sends a Blood Curse for the guy in the corner, but isn't in range, so actually can't. FCG is up. They move into the middle of the room and cast Mass Healing Word, healing 10 to everyone around except Orm. He's a little bit out of the range and isn't seen. They then go to shoot their bolt, but natural 1 twice, which is insane. The caster is up. Heat Metal ends, and they change into a giant eagle. They grab Joe and the hooded figure and jump into the center of the room. Fern gets to swing and deals 1 damage. The caster then leaves through the back door that Fern just opened and starts flying away. Ashen gets an attack of opportunity, dealing 23 damage. It continues to fly. Ashen is now up. Ashen uses a wormhole strike to hit the eagle and hits, dealing 22 damage. The bird bursts back into its human form and all 3 begin to fall. They're falling straight for the fence. There's an interesting moment here. Ashen's effect requires him to drop a creature to 0 hit points for him to be able to activate it, so he can use it to teleport, which technically he did, reducing the giant eagle's health to 0, reverting it back to the druid form. So Matt rules it in favor of Ashen, which I really do like. I think that's a really good reading of the rules and how rules are written versus how rules are intended. And I actually really like this moment because I think in my opinion it shows that Matt is truly sticking to always doing rule of cool until it's too ridiculous, and this is not ridiculous at all. I think it's great. Ashen then teleports up to Joe and grabs him and begins to fall with Joe, hoping to brace the impact. Orm is up. He runs and jumps to grab the hooded figure, who is also falling. He then tries to bait and switch and have his back facing the ground instead of the hooded figure. He makes an athletics checks of 15. He grabs the hooded figure, their arm, and spins them, moving them away from the fence, but Orm is now in line of the fence. Imogen then tries to use her telekinesis to push the fence down and rolls a 14 and is able to bend it a bit, taking away some of the brunt of the damage that the falling people are about to take. They all land on the bent fence, taking less damage than they would have. Ashen takes 7, Orm takes 13, the hooded figure takes 4, and Joe takes 9. The druid also smokes the ground and snaps their arm and are out cold. They have time before Ratanish is back. Imogen and FCG want to wait for Ratanish and take him out, and the party agrees for the most part. Some of them do want to flee in this moment, but they choose to stay. Chetney ties up the druid. The party circle where Ratanish was. The melee fighters up close. The casters are out back. Imogen preps Psychic Lance. Laudna is on the ceiling, prepping her attack. Pate is near Fern. Chetney holds a inflict wounds. Fern is further back with a Scorching Ray being prepped. FCG feels the spell is about to end. They hear some voices coming off in the distance, some neighbors. Lana summons the Hound to add to more damage. FCG drops the spell. Ratanish returns and is pissed, but not raging. Chetney hits, first hits for 21 and dealing 25 damage. Lana casts Blight, con save. Ratanish rolls a natural 1. He takes 38 damage from Lana. FCG uses Toll the Dead. Ratanish fails, taking 13 from that. Fern casts Scorching Ray, misses the first 2, but hits the last one, dealing 16. With Mister's help. Mister then throws a Flaming Seed and hits for 8 damage. Imogen then Psychic Lances him. He fails for 24 damage and becomes incapacitated. Imogen also flares her eyes, dealing 6 more damage, but she takes 5 damage in the process. Aurum slashes with Seedling, hitting the first for 16, and then stabs again, dealing 16 more, placing him in front of Ashen, who uses his hammer to end Ratanish, using the blunt end and sweeping through his body. Meanwhile, outside, the druid died from their injuries. They then throw him in the hole because they want to interrogate him later. They check on Joe. He didn't want to see anything that just happened. Chetney looks out the front door and sees that to see if anyone's coming. Chet sees people are coming to check in on Joe, as he has a good reputation in the area. Chetney tells him to keep them calm. He says he tells the people out front that he made a mistake and everything's all good. He closes the door and he says he's happy to see them all. They ask what happened. At this point, the rabbit folk, who was the hooded figure, walks into the room. She says they had been put to task outside of their preferences. She asks if they are all friends. Joe says yes, and that her name is Verna the Viper. Apparently she's really well known. Ashton knows the name. She's a head of the Overmind sect, which is some sort of technology-based thing, I guess. Joe asks how he can repay the party. They ask him what happened. He doesn't want to talk about it here. More of them might come. They say they need him to fix something. Imogen and Fern think they can go to the hideaway, or the Callaway hideaway, but that's a little far. They check out the bodies and find Ratanish's axe and some weirdly clean boots on him, and a ton of gold. The rogue had a nice rapier, and they all had a necklace with the Dusk Maven's skull on it. Dancer steps in and says hi to Joe. FCG says that they're working together to fix the harness and would like Joe's help. He goes to look at it, and Verna jumps in with him, and they start to look it over with a lot of interest. Joe explains that some small crews grabbed him and forced him to start making things for them after the whole moon thing went down. They were working on something that was destroyed during the fight. It was a brimstone nullifier, which means anything that was using brimstone to like float around or fly around would be turned off, which would be very dangerous, especially for skyships. Joe and Verna think that the harness isn't beyond repair, but it is very damaged. Chetney insight checks Verna and gets a 24 and then gets a whisper. Joe tells them that they need time, but he has an idea of how to fix it. He grabs a leather case and hands it to Verna and starts throwing stuff into the bag. Aurum sees that Vasselheim soldiers are coming. The party talk about where to take Joe, as they aren't going to be able to take him to the Callaway hideaway, as it's very far and they need to meet up with Keyleth soon. They could go to Hundir's old place. The party start cleaning the place up and throwing bodies in the hole. Fern steals some shit, as her thing to do. The soldiers knock, and Lana decides to make a silent image of a young girl screaming and sending it through the door, scaring the absolute fuck out of the soldiers. The party run out the back. They move through the city and feel safe as they go. They choose to go to Hundir's place, but some people want to go to the Taste of Teldore, but it's more than likely closed. Verna says that doesn't mean it has to stop them. They choose to go to Hundir's place instead of breaking into somewhere else. FCG asks about going to Dancer's place. It's not Dancer's place anymore. FCG remembers Esmir. They could go to her. Or Esmer. Not Esmir. They could go to her. But Dancer doesn't think that she'll be very happy with her right now. They go to Hundir's place. Stealth check with Pass Without a Trace. They roll super high, as they always do with Pass Without a Trace. They move through the city, hearing the crawlers moving around, seemingly looking for someone, but no one sees them. They reach Hundir's place. It seems abandoned, but looks to have been lived in a bit. They knock, no answer. Chetney smells around. He smells piss puddles and liquor, and doesn't feel any threat currently. Orm looks for anyone inside this basement space, but there seems to be no one. Joe and Verna look over the harness again. Joe asks what it is and where they got it. They tell him that it's very old and takes power from Fey beings, or Fey powerful magic sources. He thinks it can attach to a place of magical power, or a powerful magical place or person, and takes the power from it. But it would most likely destroy someone without the correct runes on it. Joe thinks once it's fixed up, a powerful and enough enchanter could enchant it once again. Joe thinks it'll take a few weeks, but with the help that he seems to have at his disposal, it should shorten the time. Dancer thinks with her help, it'll go down to 2 weeks, and with Verna, probably even less than that. FCG asks if they need resources. Joe says they might have better luck getting supplies elsewhere. And Joe says that he has to leave in general, as the general who was holding them is dead, and it won't take long for people to figure out exactly the connection there. The party think it's best if they go with Keyleth. Joe looks forward to meeting Kimothy, as they keep calling Keyleth, as they don't want to give it away. They tell Joe they'll meet her at a tree in a few hours. Fern asks where Verna is from. She's from here, but not born in Bastarus. She just stumbled her way here, much like Fern herself. She asks Fern if she's a Calloway. She knew Birdie, and they seem to have a resemblance. Fern asks if she's seen her parents. No, she hasn't seen them recently. They rest up for an hour. Fern asks what supplies they need. Joe says they need a bunch of stuff, but residuum is going to be the hard one to find. The party have some and give it to him. Cheney asks who's in charge of Bastarus right now. Joe really has no idea who's in charge, but doesn't think that Vasselheim is taking a position of power, just sort of setting up here. Bastarus seems to be more of a staging area for what's going on beyond. Orm asks how long it'll take Joe. Joe thinks with all three of them that it should be less than 2 weeks, with the right place, however. They could send Joe to Whitestone. Joe asks who they're talking about when they're referring to him. They tell Joe that it's Percival Derolo. He calls Percy the terrible tinkerer of Teldore. They ask what they know of him. He just says he's heard some stories. The party tell him that Percy is mean, but his wife is nice. Laudna asks if they need if they need the harness in the shattered teeth. The party is not sure. Imogen wonders if they can make the harness reverse and take energy out and use it on Ludinus. Joe says it seems to be some sort of minor ritual, and the ritual will most likely destroy the power source, unless it's something super powerful like an Archfey. Verna says that they could probably make some alterations to it if they wanted to suck energy out. The party thinks that's the plan, to send them to Whitestone. The party want to meet up with Keyleth, but Ashen wants to spread the word and see what he can find out around the city. Imogen will go with him. Chetney wonders what Ludinus did with the harness. The party think he was drawing power into himself to extend his life. Imogen thinks that the harness sort of predates the whole Predathos thing with him. His notes were more about living longer to see his plan through, so maybe not necessarily predating Predathos, but like sort of coinciding with the two. He's maybe as old as the Calamity, which is something they have to keep in mind. Chetney wonders if they could put it on FCG and go to Aor and supercharge them. Laudna likes this idea and thinks of other places that they could all go to and supercharge themselves. The party think it's best to learn what this thing does first and to fix it up. Ashton and Imogen sneak out of the room at this point. Ashton goes to the Death Wish and wants to ask around about Pocket. He finds old connections and makes a persuasion check of 7 plus a little bit of gold, and he learns that Pocket has seemingly gone underground, avoiding the temple soldiers. Ashton says that that's the thing about going home. Plan B is real easy. Ashton goes and looks for Justy at the All Mines Burn. Ashton takes Imogen around. As Ashton takes Imogen around, she sees the red moon lording over everything. They eventually reach the building of the All Minds Burn and go inside. Imogen gets the feeling that this place is the same as the last time they were there. Not much has really changed, like the rest of Bassaris. They see people all having pipes and enjoying a smoke. It smells awful. Everyone turns to look at Ashen and Imogen as they come inside. Ashen says he's looking for Justy. They hear a voice ask him who the fuck they think they are looking for Justy. They see a pale woman with black hair that covering one of her eyes and a dagger in her hand. It's Shady Sally. Ashen says they're looking for her. Ashen introduces her to Imogen. In her head, Imogen says howdy, and she feels the minds of everyone in the chamber doing this. Ashen asks if anyone else is around. Sally says they all went into their own different directions, looking for money. Sally was one of the nobodies, one of the people who left them. Sally says, to be fair, if he would have done the same thing if she was in his position. He was very broken. Ashen says, I promise just one, and he goes to punch her. She catches his fist as he rolls really low. And she says he can do better. Ashen says, your turn. Sally asks if Justy is up, because they won't want to miss this, and goes to punch Ashen as well, but rolls a natural 1. Ashen uses erotic defense, which makes her seemingly very slow, so has some sort of time alteration, and he just pushes her over. At this point, Justy comes out and sees Ashen and gets all excited. Ashen says he worked for that bitch paying off their debts, and he says that they need to get the old crew back together because they need, because they are good at what they do, and they need people who are good at what they do right now. Justy asks why they need people. Ashen says they're going to save the world. Justy and everyone starts to laugh. Ashen says to read his mind. Justy gets real close and says they have someone they want him to meet. Justy says to wear a mask because it's gross down there. Ashen says it was nice meeting Sally. Imogen asks what's with the mask. Ashen has no idea. Imogen says there's something in their heads. Ashen says nothing as big as what's in her head, and that's why they're here. Ride or die, they don't leave people behind. One last sting at Sally. Justy leads them down a pathway covered in mold and grossness. It smells funky. Justy says right this way. It asks for you. Imogen lowers her mental walls, and with a wisdom save of 12, she feels something oppressive enter her mind, or the minute she opens up. The presence is very alien and gives off some sort of anxiety feeling. It's odd and fractured, but not dangerous. As they move, the mold smell gets stronger, and it becomes bone dry down here. Everything around them is yellow and green and seems to have some sort of veins. The stairs go from a hard stone to something very soft. Really gross. They step into a cellar. They see a mass of bones and skulls. Ashen asks what Justy has gotten into. They say this is us. Imogen asks what it is, and it turns and speaks to Imogen, but not with words, but with emotions. This is the All Minds Burn. It is those who rejoin. Imogen asks how old it is in its mind. She sees images of the bodies that are sort of making up this mask. They aren't fully gone, they still hold on to their lives a bit. She sees hundreds of years go by with hundreds of different people. She asks where it came from. It's not sure. It wants to meet more, but this is its home and wants to go, and does want to go further. It sees through the eyes who take part. They realize the smell of her, or the smell here, is the same as the one that the people upstairs were smoking. So the moss is most likely what they're smoking, which is gross. Imogen asks if Ashen wants to recruit it. Ashen says he might hurt it if he partakes, as he is broken. Justy says, don't hurt us. Imogen gets the feeling that it's worried about reaching out to Ashen's mind, and is looking through Imogen's mind and memories. She sees it look through many memories, being a child, when she's part of the Bell's Hells, many other moments. It withdraws and she feels that it wants to help. Imogen says it'll put an end to all of this. It'll put an end to all of us and to you, referring to Bor'dor. Imogen wonders if she took part of it with them, would it be able to see through them? The strongest connections take time to build. It goes through her mind again, looking at Ruidus memories. Imogen asks if that's where it wants to go. It moves a bit and a hard shell lands at Imogen's feet. It almost emerges from this mass. Jesse says, it's the brood pit. They should take it. They ask what to do with it. Imogen sees the storm and everything red around her. Jesse says it wants to be seeded. Jesse says that they'll have them when they need them. All they have to do is take that with them and leave it there. Imogen agrees, as does Ashton. Ashton says they'll be back. Imogen says this is a strange day. Justy thanks them for trusting them. Ashton says they've almost never steered them wrong. Imogen feels the mass push into her mind once more. It's not pushy, just adamant. It offers to help. Justy walks up and touches it and says it means no harm, it's just lonely. Ashton and Imogen leave. They go back upstairs. Everyone in the All Minds Burn building bows to them, and they choose to head out. Sally is no longer there. Imogen says that is not what she was expecting. Imogen laughs and says now they have to plant this on Ruidus. Ashton likes that Imogen runs with a broken crew. He's been with a few groups, but has never felt very important. They both feel like they have been taking up space for someone else. Imogen says that Ashton is special. Ashton says that he knows that, and that's why he's fighting for her, because they're all special. They say, let's go plant this egg on the moon and head back. Laudna is freaking out. She thinks that Ashton has finally kidnapped Imogen and snapped. Chenny asks Pate to talk some sense into her, but Pate can't. He's sort of loyal to Laudna. Imogen and Ashton return, and they say that they saw things. They explain what they saw. This confuses the absolute shit out of Orym, as it was a very soft yet hard mass, which is gross. The party head out to meet Keyleth. Stealth checks with Pass Without a Trace. They roll high for the most part, but they do have two low rolls, which one is a natural one. They head toward the tree with no issues, and they come through as they go through the city. They see the skyship that was damaged is now being repaired, and that the other ones have gone. They get to the tree and don't see Keyleth at first, but they eventually see a squirrel with antlers. It's Keyleth, and she transforms back into a regular form. She did know someone on the ship. She explains that people are setting up battlements near what they call the Red Bridge, or the dig site. There's a sizable army around the bridge, and they don't know the capabilities of the army yet. The Vasselheim forces were told not to engage unless they were attacked themselves. Some see this as a boon, but Keyleth thinks that it's time for them to get moving. She needs to get moving on her own and grab old allies. The party explain that they need Joe and the others to go to Whitestone. Keyleth says that should be possible, and that with a bit of talking and convincing, Percy will let them use their workshop. Joe and the others introduce themselves to Keyleth, and the party are going to go to the Shattered Teeth. Keyleth opens up the tree to the party. On the opposite side, they see a yellowish hue to the foggy sky. She tells them that Giarna is a turtle person, or a turtle. They go through the door, and the door closes behind them. They're now in the Shattered Teeth, and this is where the episode ends. So there you have it, episode 70. I thought this was a fantastic episode. I'm very excited with how everything turned out. I was very disappointed in the fact that they didn't go see D last week, but instead decided to see Dancer. But taking out Ratanish is huge, and dealing with some of the Paragon's Call is huge. Learning about more of the army surrounding the Red Bridge is cool. And, just everything in general. Sort of placing people in the right spots. They now have Joe, Dancer, and Verna going to see Percy, which is really cool. So I'm very excited about where everything goes. Like I said, disappointed they didn't go see D, but where they ended up is good. And I think that it was a fantastic episode. I loved the image of all of them Gain beating the shit out of Ratanish and then leaving him sort of half dead on the floor, and then Ashen just finishing it. I thought that was great. The All Minds Burn is way more fucked than I thought. I just thought it was some sort of drug. No, it seems to be mold from this massive gross decay and death. Really gross. Really gross. Yeah. I see the boss from Dark Souls 3. I forget the name, but it's in Anor Londo. That's what I visualize. The sort of gross mass that has a big sword. But anyway, I digress. Fucking cool imagery from that thing, and just an overall really good episode. So, yeah, that is episode 70 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Very fun. I will see you guys on Tuesday. It might be a very big video that I've been working on for a while. I'm sort of still working it out. It might not. Hopefully that video comes out within the next week because I'm very excited about it. I put a lot of effort into it so far. So I'll let you guys know at the beginning of that video if that's the video I'm talking about that's coming out. Hopefully it's either out Tuesday. If not, it'll be out next Friday. So get excited for that. I think it's going to be a good one. Anyway, peace.